Yo, yo, yo. What's good? What's good? It's Stormy B-Man, and I am back. Welcoming you to Nerds on Culture with Stormy B-Man for this Monday, October 27th, 2025. This is number 139 in our series of Nerds. And this evening, we are covering a wuxia classic from 2002. This is the classic that is known as Hero, a wuxia film. Wuxia meaning martial arts sword play. This was a film that sort of brought more focus on the Hong Kong film industry again after the likes of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon had its run. There were a lot of films that were of that ilk that got released into the international market. But Crouching Tiger was quite groundbreaking for its time. And several years later came Hero, a film that was made in mainland China, and it starred Jet Li, the martial arts sensation from the 90s, who had had the luxury of starring in such classics as Once Upon a Time in China, the film series. He was also in films like Fong Sak-yuk, The Last Hero in China, The Tai Chi Master, The Bodyguard from Beijing, and the classic remake of Bruce Lee's Fist of Fury, Fist of Legend. Jet Li had quite a run in the martial art film industry. A slight man of about 5'6", and trained in wuxia, Chinese martial arts, since the age of 6 or 7 years old. In fact, he was part of a traveling troupe that came to the U.S. during the Nixon administration and performed here on U.S. soil as a young boy. And Bruce Lee had recently passed away, and he was interviewed as a small child, and they had asked him, would he like to grow up and be like Bruce Lee, or be the new Bruce Lee, or something of equivalent. And he was very modest as a young boy and said he just wanted to help promote Chinese martial arts to the world. And boy, did he ever do that. The film Hero, again released in 2002, was directed by famous China director Zhang Yimou, and it was action directed, meaning the martial arts choreography, by the legendary Tony Ching Su Tung. Now, Tony Ching Su Tung had cut his teeth with the Shaw Brothers studio, and he had done a number of things in the martial arts to really get himself going. And one of the things that he managed to do was he got the opportunity to choreograph films that were not directed by Chong Che or some of the other head directors of Shaw Brothers. He had a chance to break out into his own as an action choreographer. What he did was bring sword play and acrobatics mixed with sword play into the genre, and he began to really carve a niche out for himself in doing so. This was something that he was able to do very well. And at the same time doing that, he was promoting something that people hadn't really seen a lot of cinematically. And that's what really drove the genre forward as far as what he was able to do. Another thing that Tony Ching Su Tung, excuse me, getting a little tongue-tied there. Another thing that he was able to do was find talent to perform the martial arts that his choreography demanded. So finally, when he had done a host of films, when he got around to doing the action choreography for a film like Hero, what better robust martial stars than the likes of Jet Li, and joining Jet Li in a cinematic production for the second time. Once Upon a Time in China Part 2 was their first time meeting on film, was Donnie Yen. And Donnie Yen and Jet Li filmed a classic fight scene in that Once Upon a Time in China Part 2. And so here they were, aligned opposites again in this film, and some great work was done. That's one of the things at the heart of the film Hero that many cinema goers can reflect upon, what they were able to do in this film. Now, the film has some tremendous actors, co-stars in here, and we'll get to that in just a moment. I want to say welcome to everybody that's out there in the chat. We have my brother Drew Titan is taking a break this evening. He's kind of recovering. He's had some things going on there, so please extend your well wishes toward our brother as he takes some rest, some seriously needed rest. So I'm flying solo this evening, but thought that I would bring one of the classics out to cover, because this film is really worth it. I think this film garnered 7 Hong Kong Film Awards, and it was an outstanding production. Um, a lot of people recall this film being a moving film. And I'll tell you what the plot was in just a moment as we get ready to do a little bit of a roll call to see who we got in the building this evening. We got, let's see here, we got AB out there in the chat. He says, Jet Li was a bad man in his day, loved his movies growing up. Mark Wunderlich is in the building with us saying, touch that like button, hashtag LDBC, hashtag Bomb Squad, hashtag Team Petty. Adrian Viet is back with us saying, salute Sensei, what's good with you? And 225 Boxing Talk in the building saying, all right, the music lit. Peace and blessings, Stormy and chat. Eric Jordan has joined us once again saying, Stormy B-Man, salute Sensei, right back at you. And who else we got out here? T. Berry back with us saying, Stormy B-Man, peace. Drew Titan in chat. Yes, sir. 225 Boxing Talk says, this movie had a little everything. Romance, good connection with his parents, even in the law. Adrian says, salute Sensei in chat. And Jonathan Simon is back with us saying, salute OG. Blessings to you in the chat, and hit the like button. Yes, sir. Let's see here. What else we got? Some of you guys are just commenting and greeting one another. Eric Jordan says, Hero is a phenomenal film. Darrell Anderson in the building saying, salute to the Sensei. Salute to the rest of the kings and queens in the chat. Yes, sir. Excuse me. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, as we kick this one off, man, this film is one of my favorites. And what you see on the screen here that I managed to put up is the original theatrical, international theatrical poster for the film. This film kind of takes story elements from old Japanese Shambara films, but it's a tale of a story, and you get several different versions of the story being told between the character played by Jet Li, who is an assassin by the name, or goes by the name, Nameless, and the Qing Emperor, played by Cheng Dao Man. And great performances by everyone involved, as Nameless is trying to explain his presence in the palace to the emperor. He's given an account of a story because he arrives at the palace with weapons of former assassins who tried to take the life of the emperor. The co-stars in the film, Tony Leung and Maggie Chung, play a couple that once invaded the emperor's palace and had pretty much destroyed his guards to the degree where they could have actually murdered the emperor. And we find out later what happened with that situation. The character played by Donnie Yen is a serious character who also wanted to see the emperor taken down, and his character, I'm trying to get it correct here. was a warrior who killed with a spear. He had a special death blow that he used the spear to take people out with, and his name was Long Sky. Um, Zhang Ziyi, who was famous from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, she's playing Moon. She's a disciple of Maggie Cheung and Tony Leung. Tony Leung played the character Broken Sword, and Maggie Cheung played Flying Snow. Now, what's interesting is Zhang Ziyi, being a student of both of them, she learned a little bit of both of their martial arts. But even combined, she wasn't as good as neither one of her senior teachers, because she was a very young, up-and-coming student, whereas they were established masters and they had fierce swordplay. The film is shot in beautiful color, where we see the different tales of the story being presented to the emperor in different shades of color. The basic shades are bluish teal color. No, excuse me. There's a blue color. There is a teal color. There's a red color. There's a white color. And I do believe there's one more color scheme that covered the telling of the tales of this martial story. But what happened is, you find out as you are watching the movie, the different color schemes being told by the different participants in this assassination attempt. It kind of moves the story in a way where somebody's telling the truth, somebody's telling the lie, somebody is somewhere in between, and overall there's a purity, and the purity happens to be the white color. So it was well done in these color schemes. There's a beautiful fight sequence that takes place between Broken Sword and Nameless over a forest where you could say a stream is where Flying Snow body lies in state, and Tony Leung as Broken Sword, her lover, is having a duel with Nameless around her body, which is on this, I guess you could call it a lake, but the water is very still, not moving, no waves or anything. And these two are having a sword ballet over the water. And it's so well shot that they're flying through the air, and to stay elevated above the water, they use various tricks of their hands, their swords, to keep themselves up in the air. And it's so well done. The editing, the choreography is exceptional. I remember seeing this film for the first time, and I just sat there marveling at what I was looking at on screen, especially if you're watching it like in a home theater type situation with that ultra DTS sound and everything. What a magnificent scene. And there hasn't been anything to match that since. It was so well done. And I remember watching the behind the scenes featurette, which explained why they were shooting that in that area, and they only had like an hour out of the day that they could shoot footage where the water remained calm and still like that. So there were tons of reflections in the water because nothing was moving. So the forest and the sky that was around everything kind of looked like a glass painting. It was amazing. Well done. How many of you out here in the chat have seen this film and marveled at that cinematic moment and the sequence of how that was shot? I mean, it really took me by surprise, and I was just very highly impressed with that when I saw it. Let me see what we got in the chat here. We got a couple more comments. We got Adrian Viet says Tan Don's musical scores, along with China Philharmonic Orchestra and chorus for the film, were so good. Absolutely, man. Adrian Viet is repeating a line from the movie How Swift Is Your Sword after witnessing Jet Li's amazing feat of using his sword. That's what they would say. And they would say it in Chinese, but that's how it would come across in the subtitles. How swift is your sword? Amazing film, man. And the guy who played the Emperor, Chen Daoming, he was excellent as well. As he's sitting there and Jet Li is telling him how he conquered these assassins to arrive at the palace, he is being awarded with tails of gold and silver and an opportunity to sit closer to the king or the emperor. And the emperor mentions that he had the palace cleared out because when Flying Snow and Broken Sword entered his palace, taking out all of his soldiers and everything, he felt that he needed the palace empty because they were too great and he didn't want any traitors. So he had vacated all the hired hands out of the palace, but you weren't allowed to come within, I think it was 20 to 30 paces of the emperor. And Jet Li, with his accomplishments of having taken out or reputed taken out those former assassins, he was invited to drink with the emperor, but he could only be within 20 paces. And we later find out that Jet Li's nameless character is a skilled assassin himself, and his special death move is called death within 10 paces. So when he's invited to sit there and drink before the emperor and everything, and he's within 20 paces, and the emperor is starting to feel some strange energy from Jet Li's nameless character as he was telling the tale of how he arrived. Yeah. And so yeah, Adrian, wasn't that something, bro? And so as Jet Li was telling the story, the emperor is looking at these candles that are lit before him, and he could see that the candles, the flames of the candles are blowing toward him, away from Jet Li and toward him, which means that Jet Li's chi, his energy, is pressing toward the emperor. And the emperor is reading this because he's a martial artist himself. In fact, he fought Broken Sword when Sky and Broken Sword had broken into the palace. And so he realized that something wasn't quite right with what the story that Jet Li was telling. And this is where the movie really gets good, because it's like chess being played here between a potential assassin and the emperor, and the emperor has cleared his palace of guards. So there's no one but him and Jet Li, you see? And it's an amazing moment on cinematic wuxia history, man. This is so good. I mean, if you like films that have substance to them and depth, even though this film is subtitled, the dialogue that takes place between the people is outstanding. That's one thing I could say. Adrian says, I remember the emperor was perceptive and he knew that there's some BS on Jet Li's story. Yeah, because he began to tell a version of the story too. And when he got to the story about Broken Sword and Sky, he said his telling of it was, that was when it was in teal. The color was teal, that kind of bluish green color hue. And he was telling Nameless, those two entered my palace and they were on such a whirlwind. He said, they almost killed me. That's what he said. But and Jet Li was asking him, well, what happened? And he didn't really tell him what happened, but he just let Jet mull over that story for a moment. And then they tell you another view of what really transpired with Broken Sword and Flying Snow, where it's in red. And that's the vengeful part right there, where they turned on each other and everything. And it was just kind of crazy, man. And Jet Li had come to them to write a script for him. And when I say script, it's like a scroll that would be a message that he took to the emperor after gathering the weapons of the so-called assassins who attacked the emperor. And he wanted the script to say, all under heaven. And written by someone with expert sword play, such as Broken Sword, who was a calligraphy man as well. So at his school of calligraphy, Jet Li arrives there and it's all in red and everything. And, you know, he tells them, I want to learn how to write the word sword, you know. So Tony Leung, as Broken Sword, is trying to show him how to write the characters to spell out the word sword, because there's many ways in Chinese that you can write that word or the script. And so he said he needed a special way to write it, so he was using this sandbox with a giant brush on how to spell out those letters. You know, it's really cool that this film was shot the way it was, because not only does it show the martial pride of these warriors, but it shows the intricacies of their art and their skill set. Now, though Donnie Yen's character, Long Sky, he was a killer with a spear. And when he fought, he didn't even use the bladed tip of his spear. He kept it covered, and he would just wound and beat guys down. But when he intended to kill, he would take the cover off of the blade. And when he and Jet Li have this wonderful fight scene early in the film, and they show Jet Li defeating him, that's where you begin to learn, oh, Jet Li must be pretty damn good. And it turned out that Jet Li's character, though called Nameless in the film, he was someone that was an official, like a prefect, or what they call a policeman. So he came under the guise of a policeman to arrest Long Sky, who was a reputed assassin. So as he tells the story to the emperor about how he was able to defeat Sky and take his blade from his spear, the emperor was like, you got to be a pretty damn good fighter to have taken Long Sky's blade, you know, because no prefect or lawman could just take him down like that, because he killed or injured or wounded those officers by the dozens. So the emperor was beginning to see through a lot of Jet's or Nameless's storytelling. It was an amazing thing, man. It was so interesting to see this play. And he had made it within 20 paces of the emperor. So as he got to that point, he's trying to figure out, meaning Jet Li, is he on to me? And the Emperor's trying to figure out, have I let another assassin get too close to me? There's some really cool dynamics going on here in this story. But let's get back to the martial arts scene between Jet Li and Donnie Yen. What a battle of sword and spear. I hadn't seen such great choreography of sword and spear since Sammo Hung's The Odd Couple, where he and Lau Chao-leung played martial art masters of the sword and spear, and they met every 10 years to battle up to see who was the best between the two of them. And they were starting to get very old, so they decided that they would find a couple of young students to teach their skill sets to, so that they could carry on the tradition of trying to see who's the best. And the ironic thing about The Odd Couple is, as Sammo played the old man who was good with I think he was good with the sword, and Lau Chao-leung was good with the spear. When they found younger students to teach their arts to, they switched their roles opposite. Like Sammo's young student was Lau Ka-young as a young man, and Lau Ka-young student was Sammo Hung as a young man. So they switched up, which showed both of their prowess with both sword and spear. And that's what was so amazing about that film and the choreography. And it's a riot at that. That film has comedy in it, but not silly comedy, but comedy that is applicable to the martial action that takes place on film. What a great film The Odd Couple is. I did do a Kung Fu film focus on that. So if you look through the archives, you might be able to track that down. But what a great film that was. But in this film, Jet Li and Donnie Yen are battling sword and spear in the vein of what Lau Ka-young and Sammo Hung did in The Odd Couple many years earlier. So yeah, that was an amazing thing to watch. And of course, Jet Li's prefect was able to defeat Donnie Yen's assassin, Long Sky. And he broke his sword off, broke his spear off, broke the tip off, and packed that up to take to the Emperor when he took broken swords and flying snows weapons too. So when the Emperor saw those weapons, he's like, whoa, this guy must be really awesome, being able to, you know, take these former assassins' weapons away from them. Yeah, the fact that the most dangerous out of the assassins was supposed to be Donnie Yen's character. So when the Emperor saw that Jet Li's Nameless showed up with his spear tip, he really began to doubt things. He was like, how is this little dude, you know, defeat the great Sky, you know? And Adrian Viet, you're right. They had a battle against each other in their minds, where they just stood in front of one another and imagined the battle taking place within each one of their minds. Excuse me. That was a great moment in the film. Yeah, buddy. So the Emperor is already sensing that Jet Li is sitting up there lying to him, man. And he's concerned because dude is already within 20 paces of him. So he's like stalling things out now, the Emperor, because he can't let him get no closer, because 20 paces, you're figuring that the Emperor can still defend himself at 20 paces. And they began to discuss the stories further in greater detail. And the Emperor is able to figure out that the only way that Sky could have Jimmy Bernard in the chat. He says, "What's good, Sensei?" He says, I love this freaking movie. Thank you, Stormy. Yeah, Hero is awesome, man. It's an awesome film, brother. It is awesome. Yeah, the Emperor is starting to realize Jet Li is lying, but he says the only way for Sky to be Sky to be defeated, he would have to cooperate with somebody, because they couldn't beat him, because he knew his martial arts was superior to all. And so the Emperor is putting this story together that Jet Li is telling him, and he's realizing, like, man, I done let this guy get within 20 paces of me, and he done told me all these lies. Broken Sword and Flying Snow are dead, but here he is. So he must be better than them, but he couldn't be better than Sky. So what the hell is going on here, truly? And then the Emperor tells Jet Li, your story is pretty good. He said, but you underestimate one person. And he says, who? Jet Li says, who? And the Emperor says, me. And then he says, he goes on to tell Jet Li about when Sky and Broken Sword broke into the palace and damn near killed him. Literally, Broken Sword used his sword to scratch the Emperor's neck, where he could have cut his head off, but he scratched him and let him live. And he tells Jet Li this, and he's like, why did Broken Sword and Flying Snow not complete their mission? It was because Broken Sword didn't go through with it. And then she got mad at Broken Sword, and that's her lover. She got mad at him for not carrying out their planned assassin attack. So she got mad at him, and then that's when that other part of their story changed into a blue color, you know, because the blue was represent the love and everything that they were supposed to have, and the positive sense and everything. And they had been warring against each other, and their young student, Moon, was caught in between them in their argument and stuff. So the Emperor told Jet Li, nameless, he said, you underestimate. He's like, those people invaded my palace, they could have wiped me out and everything, but they let me live. And then Jet Li was like, why? And he said, I've been trying to figure that out. And Jet Li tells him, well, I brought something with me for you. And then the Emperor was like, well, what did you bring? And they passed him the scroll that he had Broken Sword write for him at the calligraphy school. And when the guards unrolled the scroll, and the Emperor was able to stare at it, and it said, all under heaven. And the Emperor realized now why Broken Sword didn't kill him. Because this is the whole point about wanting these assassins wanting to take out the Emperor. He had gone from province to province, pillaging and wiping out the villagers. And he was expanding his kingdom. He even had the Great Wall of China built because he was trying to expand throughout the world, but it was in China, but he wanted to expand across the globe. And so he, in his infinite thirst for power, was trying to convince the world that what he was doing it for the best of China. And he wanted China to be number one throughout the world. And Jet Li was like, do you plan to not stop? And the Emperor was like, no, why should I stop? This is great. I'm building our kingdom is expanding and this and that. And he was like, but Broken Sword didn't kill you because he felt like he understood what you were doing. But I thought he didn't kill you because he felt like you would stop doing what you were doing. So that scroll that Broken Sword wrote, All Under Heaven, what it actually meant was this emperor wanted to unite all under China, all have one world, right? Through conquering. And someone with such ambition would be very hard to stop. And so Broken Sword decided to lay his sword down and not try to take down the emperor. Well, Jet Li's Nameless character didn't share that same sentiment. He was a lot like Flying Snow, where Flying Snow got mad at Broken Sword and was like, you fool, you could have killed him. That's why she didn't want to speak to him no more or whatever, even though that was her lover. And Jet Li was now before the emperor, and he was indecisive because he could hear what the emperor's plans were, but he was torn about should he still attack the emperor. He was starting to understand the message that Broken Sword had got through. It was some real interesting dynamics here, man. And what also happened was that was pretty cool. The emperor told them to take all the awards away and the gold and stuff that Jet Li had earned, Nameless, had earned to get to sit before him. And he tells him, he says, I surmise that you are the most treacherous out of all of them because you needed to get within 20 paces of me, whereas some of them couldn't get as close. So I imagine that you're the most dangerous out of all of them, including Long Sky. And so he says, do you intend to kill me? He asked Jet Li's character. And Jet was like, yeah. And he said, and how do you intend to kill me? And you have no sword, you know, because he was stripped of his weapons or anything he couldn't bring into the palace. All he could wear was his robes, you know, and his headband. And he told the emperor, by taking your sword. Man, when he said that, bro, I was like, holy shit, this is like watching a live version of chess. Do you hear what I'm saying? The chess between two people who are so elevated in their martial and psychological prowess that now it's just a duel of the fates. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Star Wars and the Jedis. But listen, man. Adrian says, the war will continue to rage if Broken Sword proceeded on killing the emperor. The same war that took away Nameless's family. So it was really something when he gave up the chance. Yeah, right? Now, he tells the emperor he plans to kill him by taking his sword. Now, the emperor's like, you got to get close to me to take my sword or whatnot, and you know, you're not even armed or whatever. He was like, what is your special death move? And that's when Nameless told him, death within 10 paces. Man, let me tell you something, bro. Awesome. The emperor took his sword out and threw it on the table. threw it on the table. Like, man, this guy got me dead to rights. Ain't nothing I could do because my soldiers told me how he took out Flying Snow. And Flying Snow took out Broken Sword. It was amazing, man. So he was like, well, you done made it here, you might as well kill me. And that's when he was standing there looking at that portrait of the scroll, and he was like, I got it. He was like, my greatest enemy is the one who understands me the most. He was like, how can I have, you know, peace within what I'm doing when I've caused so much dissent and destruction and this and that? He was like going through it, right? And Jet Li decided to attack him with his own sword. And he jumped toward him where he was, it looked like he was gonna stab him in the back. And he put the sword in the Emperor's sword sheath. He sheathed it back into his sleeve and said, now you still can have your reign over your empire. And he turned to walk out. And as he walked out, the Emperor's guards came in, filling up the palace. And they were like, Emperor, you can't let him walk away. He just violated you. You know, we got to kill him. We got to kill him. So he was walking out the palace, and they started following him. They were following him by the hundreds. It was like hundreds of them soldiers. And those guys couldn't beat him either. But they were following him with their swords and spears drawn and everything. And they were like, Emperor, give us the word to kill him, because this guy can't be allowed to live. We got to let him go. You can't let him go, rather. And as he walked to the gates of the palace, they were like, give us the signal, Emperor, so we could kill him. Give us, you know, let us know what to do. And when he got to the gate of the palace, he turned around and looked back into the palace. And the Emperor, who was standing there with tears in his eyes, because now he realizes that these people, they really do support him, but he has to have a different approach in his mindset toward it. And should he kill this assassin and let him live because he may come back? Or should he, you know, let him go and just tough it out? You know, it was a hard decision for him to make. But the end of this movie is so damn awesome, man. I remember the first time I saw it, I just sat there with my jaw open. I just sat there with my jaw open. It was one of the most amazing wuxia films I've ever seen. Hero. Dynamic stuff, bro. Dynamic. You know? Adrian says, the Emperor almost shat his pants when Nameless executed that killer move. He sure did, man. He sure did. It was something else, wasn't it? He says Broken Sword understood him far more than those yes men who was begging him to execute Nameless. Yeah, man. Yeah. The movie is so damn good, bro. It's like when you watch Hero, first of all, you have to have a little bit of understanding of Chinese culture. You really do. That'll make it much more easy and enjoyable if you do understand it. If you don't, it's going to take a couple of viewings to get certain points. But you'll be enriched as a result of having viewed this film, I'm telling you. 225 says, gotta give it a watch. If you never watched this movie, brother, if you never watched it, please check it out. Please check this film out. Yeah. It's an amazing wuxia film, man. Amazing. In fact, if you like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, then you should like this film. Easily the best. Something that they made that should be really enjoyed. Anybody got any questions about it? I'm not going to give away the entire plot of the film because that will ruin anyone's viewing of it for the first time. I ain't like Drew, where I'll tell you everything, the beginning, the middle, and the end, and you ain't got to watch the movie no more. Drew likes to give away. I don't know why that brother do that. He be like, yeah, and then when this happened, I was like, oh, man, dang, you know. I'm like, man, Drew, you talking too much, man. So my partner in crime, he been done give away the ending and everything. But yeah. Enoch Bird says, might be my favorite Kung Fu movie ever. Either this or The Last Dragon. Well, we know about The Last Dragon around these parts. Just a couple weeks ago, we had a discussion about that. And there's somebody who don't really care for The Last Dragon. I ain't naming no names, but just know, them's fighting words when you mention that title of that movie. For some people, yeah, buddy. This still image I have on the screen right now is them fighting over that lake where the water was real still and flat. Man, what a sequence, man. I remember watching that for the first time. I was like, how the hell did they shoot that, man? These guys were flowing across the river and fighting in the sky and taking sheaves of water and slinging them at each other and everything, blocking them. And you get ready to fall back into the lake and you use your hand to push yourself back up in the air off the top of the water. Man, these guys were throwing down, bro. This was some amazing stuff here. Yeah. So yeah. I wish I could show footage, you know, but YouTube be tripping with that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I could really make it, you know, worth the while to enjoy this even more. Some of the still photographs that I was able to capture, you know, great stuff. Great stuff. Maggie Cheung has always been good in Chinese films and Hong Kong films. That lady is a wonderful actress, just an amazing talent. Yeah. Yeah, man. Like I said, anybody got any questions for me, I could, you know, answer a few questions. on this film. Man, I'm so tired. I worked the extra shift on Sunday. Man, I'm tired, bro. I'm old. Stormy ain't like he used to be when he was young, man. I'm tired, man. Jonathan says, nice pictures of the movie. Yeah, thanks, bro. I do what I can. I would love to show the scenes, you know, some scenes, but here come YouTube with that copyright, you know. Get that. Copyright, copyright. Every time you turn around. And already took my monetization. It's like, oh, you want to copyright me now? Copyright. Adrian says it was hard finding a streaming service to watch this. My VHS copy deteriorated so bad. Man, I got this sucker on Blu-ray, bro. My first copy of it was a Region 3 DVD, and I had to buy a region, all region players to play it because I didn't have an all region player. And when I bought that all region player, which I got for, I think I was paid at the time, I paid like $39 or $40 for it. Man, I watched that movie 100 times. I loved it. It was my first all region film, you know, international region film. But you have to watch some foreign films, man. Not the American versions of them, but the foreign. Yeah, got to. Jonathan says, I feel you, OG. I was trying to catch you live this morning, but I was dozing off at work, getting old as well. Yeah, man, sometimes, listen, them old bones, bro, they be speaking, don't they? Go to sleep. You are feeling sleepy. I'd be like, yes, sir. Yes, sir, that's the truth. T-Berry says, I'm buying this ASAP. Listen, you won't be disappointed, man. You won't be disappointed. And if you get it with an English version on there, don't even watch the English version. Watch it in Chinese with the subtitles. Because this film deserves to be seen in its original type format, you know, subtitle. Because subtitles is different from English translation. English translation don't always go over very well, but subtitles will get you the gist of what's being said. Yeah. But yeah, buddy. I'm not gonna be on this normal as long as we do when it's Drew and I, because I pretty much have covered the film, and I won't keep you guys unnecessary amount of extended time. Excuse me, extended time. Adrian says, like in anime, sub, dub. Yeah, subs are better, bro. Subs are better. And the more that you watch a subtitled film, the fact it may be slow to you at first. It's like trying to keep up or whatever. But when you do it regularly on a regular basis, you're able to follow the film just well. It's just it's the eye muscle memory. Eye muscle has to pick up what you look and compute. It's like once you get adjusted to it, it's okay. Dr. Simon's asking, Stormy, you used to catch these karate movies after 10 o'clock news. I can't remember the name of every Saturday night. Those were the days. We didn't never get them on like that, bro. It was always Super Samurai Saturday or Super Samurai Sunday, where they would come on in the early afternoon, sometimes after 12, 1, 2 o'clock. And that would be when they would be on. They mostly show Shaw Brothers stuff. Every once in a while, you'll see a Bruce Lee movie or something like that, but no, not usually the best stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dude 25 says, I got to give it a watch. Yeah, bro, you got to check it out. It's a damn good movie, man. Damn good movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is one of my all-time favorites. It's got to be in my top 5 or 6 of martial art films. Yep, top 5 or 6. I haven't watched it in a while either. I just came up with this subject this evening because I knew I wasn't going to be on with Drew. So I said, I figure I'll talk about something that, you know, that caught my eye or my fancy during a certain time. This is a great film to kind of review in that regard. So it's another reason why I'm broadcasting it to the other channels, because, you know, that's extra content for the other channels. Talking about this, nerds on culture, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, I'll ask anybody got any more questions about the film. I mean, I'll be happy to try to answer some of them. If you do, you know, I'll try to answer. This film was shot on a budget of 31 million and it brought in 177.4 million. Ain't that something? Released October 24th, 2002 in China. It was released December 21st, 2002 in Hong Kong. Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna get ready to get on out of here, people. It's B-Man is sleepy now, bro. I'm getting old. You gotta get that beauty rest, huh? This ain't special effects. This is for real. And it takes time to put it together. You understand? So, Jonathan says, I just sent you the title. What title, bro? What title? Hold on. Let me see. Jonathan Simon, you be sending so much stuff. I don't get a chance to watch this stuff like that. Oh, okay. That's ironic that they have the same image that I use for my Kung Fu film focus too, because I didn't even know that. I see it, Jonathan Simon. I see it. Yeah. Universal says, I just bought it on eBay for $1.49. Well, it's definitely worth a view, man. It's definitely worth multiple viewings, actually. So, yeah. 225 says, I think it's on Tubi. Probably is. It's been out since 2002, so, you know, it could be almost everywhere that you watch movies, you know? So, well, yeah, man, I'm gonna get ready to get on out of here. Man, you guys have been pretty cool. Keep it in there with me. Adrian's asking, if I were going to make a ranking, where would you place Nameless on the list of Jet's roles? It'll be close to the top. I think his top role that he played might have been in the film. Hold on, because I'm trying to think of the name of it, and the name escapes me at the moment. Because Jet Li, you know, he's only made 43 movies. That's not a lot of films for his own career. The Warlords might be Jet Li's best performance. The Warlords, which is a remake of Shaw Brothers' Dynasty of Blood, aka the Blood Brothers, aka Chinese Vengeance. Yeah, the Warlords. And he's joined in that film by Andy Lau and Takashi Kaneshiro. Very good film. Very good film. The Warlords. It's basically a tale of he was a abandoned soldier who happened upon a village of people with some bandits, and Andy Lau and Takashi Kaneshiro were blood brothers in the village, and they befriended Jet Li's character, but he was a highly motivated guy, and he fell for one of their wives, and the story gets real ugly from there. But it's not a kung fu movie. It's like an old turn of the century war film where they got armor and swords and stuff. So it's like, with that film right there, The Warlords, man. Yeah. Anyway, so gotta get ready to go, you guys. Jonathan says, get some rest, OG. Much love. Adrian says, we'll check that, Sensei, and good night. Yeah, the Warlords, check that out too, man. Jet Li had a couple of slams out there. He had Fearless, he had this, he had the Warlords. Man, excellent films by this guy. Excellent. Well, yeah, let me move it on, fellas. I appreciate you guys for supporting me on this evening's Nerds. Got a chance to cover one of my favorites, Jet Li's Hero, an awesome film, huh? But we're going to get on out of here. I want to say shout out to the mighty LDBC, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week, man.